Next on AM 1480 WLEA, The Amy McManus Show.
Welcome to the Amy McManus Show on AM 1480 WLEA. 5 degrees. I thought it was 4 this morning, but 5 is so much better. Somebody put me into a coma until spring. A lot of you probably heard this story this past week about Tim Tebow and the big controversy regarding the Super Bowl ad that is going to be aired on CBS. You probably don't know a lot of the backstory. You probably know just the basics, that it's about his mother's choice to not have an abortion. But the background of it is much more inspiring than just that simple fact. Back in 1987, his mother suffered a dangerous infection while she was in the Philippines, and doctors asked her to terminate her pregnancy because they said you're just going to die during childbirth. But she refused. I believe they had 5 children at the time, or Tebow was the 5th child, and she carried him to term. And, the rest is history. He went on to win the 2007 Heisman Trophy, led the Florida Gators to 2 BCS championships. So it's a really happy story. It's inspirational, but pro-choice critics are just in complete war mode, trying to get petitions and getting people to call CBS to recommend that they not air this commercial. The problem is no one has ever seen this commercial except for the people who are in it and CBS. The actual commercial itself was funded by Focus on the Family, which, of course, the pro-choice critics absolutely deplore that organization. They say that this commercial throws women under the bus. They call Focus on the Family an extremely tolerant and divisive. And who's saying all this? Well, the Women's Media Center, as well as their sister site, Under the Bus, notunderthebus.com. Who are these groups? Well, as many times when you hear about women's health groups or women's rights groups or women's advocacy groups, they are all extremely pro-abortion. And when anything happens that's regarding abortion or any hint of pro-life messages trying to get out there, they come out in full force. On that sister site, Not Under the Bus, they're encouraging women to send in their videos of what they think CBS means. Some new abbreviations for that definitions for that acronym. So they have some women on there saying that CBS stands for cancel broadcast sexism, complete BS, completely blatant sellouts, corporate bias sucks, cancelable sexism. Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda are both on that site, and they call themselves a platform for a unified media message that supports and defends women's rights. The problem with this is that these groups really just are kind of, these left-wing organizations that nobody has heard of, and a lot of them form right when these kind of controversies happen. Not Under the Bus is a very recent group that came out when the abortion debate occurred within healthcare reform. They're coordinating all these campaigns, and they're targeting CBS. They're asking people to go online, again, sign these petitions. But Tebow is not backing down. CBS is not backing down. Tebow is known for wearing the Bible messages under his eyes, and he says, I know people don't agree with me, but I hope they respect my opinion and that I'm willing to stand up for what I believe in. CBS has in the past refused to air commercials from PETA, as well as MoveOn.org and the United Church of Christ. But apparently they feel that this commercial is inspirational and is not controversial in any way. And as CBS has said, quote, our standards and practices continue to adhere to a process that ensures that all ads on all sides of an issue are appropriate for air. So look forward to watching the Super Bowl and seeing that commercial. Some more whining also taking place against the United States Post Office. An atheist organization is upset with them because they're going to have a Mother Teresa commemorative stamp. And they say that it violates postal regulations against honoring individuals whose principal achievements are associated with religious undertakings. The group, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, is urging its supporters to boycott the stamp, which is set to be released on August 26th, which would have been Mother Teresa's 100th birthday. And it's to recognize her win of the 1979 Nobel Peace Prize for her humanitarian work. The Postal Service says she's noted for her compassion towards the poor and the suffering. Mother Teresa, a diminutive Roman Catholic nun and honorary U.S. citizen, served the sick and destitute of India and the world for nearly 50 years. Her humility and compassion, as well as her respect for the innate worth and dignity of humankind, inspired people of all ages and backgrounds to work on behalf of the world's poorest populations. That just sounds so horrible. Freedom for Religion Foundation spokeswoman Annie Gaylor says issuing the stamp runs against Postal Service regulations. Mother Teresa, she says, is principally known as a religious figure who ran a religious institution. You can't separate her being a nun and being a Roman Catholic from everything else. She did. Postal Service spokesman Roy Betts is very surprised at the protest because previous stamps that they've had included Malcolm X, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., who was a Baptist minister, Father Flanagan in 1986, and Betts says this has nothing to do with religion or faith. Gaylor says the atheist group opposed Father Flanagan's stamp, but not Martin Luther King's, because she says, well, he was known for his civil rights activities, not for his religion. Martin Luther King, she says, just happened to be a minister. There was also a stamp last year around Christmas time with some Islamic holiday references. Eid al-Fitr, which is the end of Ramadan, and Eid al-Adha, the feast of sacrifice pilgrimage to Mecca. But this group didn't have any issues with those Islamic stamps. She also added that Mother Teresa had an anti-abortion rant during her Nobel Prize acceptance speech. What did Mother Teresa say? She said the greatest destroyer of peace today is abortion. So when that stamp comes out, I'm going to buy a couple hundred of them. Also in some life news, the National Gallery of Art is coming under fire from a pro-life woman who says that officials there wouldn't let her in to the National Gallery of the Arts. She had just finished marching in the March for Life on January 22nd, and she went up and got her ticket and was entering the building. And she says she ran into a couple of errant, as she calls, security guards, and they searched her bags and kind of frisked her a little bit, and they said, you can go in, but first you need to take that pin off. She had this little pin on her lapel. It was lime green. It's at impact73.org, which most people wouldn't even know what that is, but apparently these guards did. And the silhouette of a small hand inside a large hand. It is a pro-life pin. Most people don't know that just by looking at it. She says the pin, they informed her, was a religious symbol and a symbol of a particular political cause and could not be worn inside the federal building. She asked them for a written copy of the rules that would prevent her from wearing a pro-life pin as a visitor, and they said, no, the rules aren't allowed to be seen by the public. No one responded to messages left by her as well as lifenews.com to show them where these rules are and whether the security guards were correct in not allowing her to go in. There is no mention of the prohibition of the expression of free speech by wearing religious or political symbols in Title 40, Section 6303 of the U.S. Code, which gives a very detailed list of illegal activities and what you can and cannot do when you enter the National Gallery of the Arts, as well as the Smithsonian and JFK Center and other buildings. So she doesn't understand why she was not allowed to wear a religious or political symbol. She says her First Amendment rights have been violated. Somebody from the gallery did eventually call this woman back, and they said that the museum has a policy against carrying posters and signs, no matter the message, to prevent damage to the art, but none against lapel pins. And she says that the two guards have been talked to and have been censured, and they hope that something like this does not happen again. Duke says she thinks that the guards were specifically looking for pro-life pins and things that they could use to prevent people from entering the building. You're listening to the Amy McManus Show on AM 1480 WLEA. Welcome back to the Amy McManus Show on AM 1480 WLEA. I know a lot of you heard the story this past week about former Senator John Edwards and his aide Andrew Young is coming out with this book with the lurid details about his affair. And it's just sickening, absolutely sickening, that someone of that level of government who really should be above the bar, basically he urged his mistress to have an abortion. He also urged his aide Andrew Young, who had at first pretended to be the father of the baby, asked his aide to urge her to have an abortion, and he refused. And apparently the senator was